A simple act of kindness sparked a chain reaction. This is the incredible story of a real-life hero. Life often unfolds in ways we least expect, spinning tales of heroism, resilience, and connection from the fabric of the ordinary. Adam Carter's story begins on a seemingly uneventful evening in the bustling city of Chicago. The Golden Vine, a high-end restaurant in downtown Chicago, on with activity. The soft chatter of patrons, the clinking of glasses, and the rich aroma of gourmet dishes created an ambience of sophistication. Adam, a 29-year-old waiter, moved deftly through the room, balancing trays and delivering impeccable service. He wasn't just good at his job, he took pride in it. Born and raised in a working-class neighborhood on the South Side, Adam had learned the value of hard work from his parents. His father, a factory worker, and his mother, a school teacher, instilled in him a sense of duty and perseverance. Though he had a degree in marketing, the economic downturn and fierce job market had led him to the Golden Vine. It was a Friday night like any other until she arrived. A woman in a wheelchair, appearing to be in her late 50s, was seated near the large bay windows. Her silver-streaked hair framed a face lined with gentle wisdom. As Adam approached her table, an inexplicable sense of familiarity washed over him. "Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the Golden Vine. My name is Adam, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you off with a drink?" The woman's kind eyes fixed on him. For a fleeting moment, her gaze softened as though she recognized him. "A glass of white wine, please," she said, her voice steady but warm. "Whatever you recommend." Adam nodded and retreated to the bar, the nagging feeling lingering at the back of his mind. When he returned with the wine, she was absently tracing her fingers along the menu, her thoughts seemingly elsewhere. "Have you decided on your meal, or would you like a bit more time?" Adam asked. "I'll have the grilled salmon," she replied with a soft smile. Then, after a brief pause, she added, "Adam, do you mind sitting for a moment? I have something I'd like to share." Sitting with customers wasn't part of his routine, but her tone was both sincere and insistent. "Of course," Adam replied, cautiously pulling out the chair opposite her. The woman leaned forward slightly, her hands clasped on the table. "Thank you, not just for your service tonight, but for something you did years ago." Adam frowned. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't believe we've met." "No," she said, shaking her head gently, "but you saved my daughter's life 5 years ago." Her words hit him like a bolt of lightning. Before he could form a response, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded newspaper clipping. Smoothing it out, she slid it across the table. The headline read, "Local Hero Saves Woman from Burning Car." Adam's breath caught as he stared at the grainy photograph accompanying the article. It was him, soot-streaked and wide-eyed, helping paramedics load an injured woman into an ambulance. The memory, buried under years of routine, surged back with vivid clarity. "That's me," Adam murmured, his voice barely audible. "But how did you?" "My name is Helen Watson," the woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. "And the woman you saved that night is my daughter, Emily." The flames danced wildly against the backdrop of the darkened street, licking the night sky with a ferocity that promised destruction. Adam remembered every detail of that night vividly, as if it had happened only yesterday. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. He had been driving home from a late shift at his part-time job when he noticed the chaos. A sedan had collided with a street lamp and caught fire. Smoke billowed, casting an acrid fog over the intersection, and the muffled cries of a woman trapped inside pierced the air. Instinct overrode hesitation. Adam parked his car haphazardly and sprinted toward the burning vehicle. Onlookers had gathered, but no one dared to approach the fire. His mind raced as adrenaline coursed through his veins. The driver's side door was warped and immovable, so Adam circled to the passenger side. The heat was almost unbearable, singeing his forearms as he yanked at the handle. After several frantic attempts, the door gave way, revealing the woman inside, her head slumped against the airbag, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "Hey, can you hear me?" Adam shouted, coughing against the thickening smoke. Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. She was alive, but barely conscious. Wasting no time, Adam unbuckled her seatbelt and maneuvered her out of the seat. She was lighter than he expected, but every second spent near the inferno felt like an eternity. With a final burst of strength, Adam carried her a safe distance from the wreckage just as the fire intensified, consuming the car entirely. Paramedics arrived moments later, and Adam handed the woman over to them before collapsing onto the pavement, his chest heaving from exertion. He had never learned her name. He had watched the ambulance drive away and returned home, his shirt reeking of smoke and his hands trembling from the ordeal. For weeks, the event replayed in his mind, but life eventually moved on, and the memory faded into the background until tonight. Helen's eyes glistened as she recounted Emily's recovery. She was in a coma for 2 weeks, but she pulled through, Helen said, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. The doctor said it was a miracle she survived, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. Adam was at a loss for words. I didn't think anyone even knew who I was. I just did what I thought was right. You did more than that, Helen replied firmly. You gave me my daughter back. She's alive because of you, Adam, and I can't thank you enough. For a moment, the noise of the restaurant faded into the background. Adam sat in stunned silence, grappling with the weight of Helen's words. Does Emily know? He finally asked. Helen nodded. She's been wanting to meet you for years, but she didn't know how to find you. When I recognized your name on the restaurant's website, I knew I had to come here. Adam leaned back in his chair, processing the unexpected turn his evening had taken. I don't know what to say. I'm glad she's okay, truly. I never expected this. Helen reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Sometimes, the things we do without expectation leave the greatest impact. Emily would love to meet you, if you're willing, of course. Adam hesitated, the thought of reconnecting with someone tied to such a pivotal moment in his life stirring a mixture of emotions. But deep down, he knew he couldn't say no. Of course, he said, a small smile breaking through his disbelief. I'd like that. Meeting Emily Watson wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of something neither of them could have foreseen. Emily was 26 now, a passionate advocate for trauma survivors. Her ordeal had reshaped her life, inspiring her to help others rebuild after tragedy. When Adam met her, he was struck by her resilience and warmth. You saved my life, she said the moment they met, her voice tinged with awe. And because of you, I've been able to save others. Thank you. Their conversation was a whirlwind of shared gratitude and reflections on the fragility of life. Adam found himself opening up about his own struggles, how he had felt stuck in a job that didn't fulfill him, how he longed for something more meaningful. It was Emily who planted the seed of change. You've already shown you have the heart of a hero, she said. Have you ever thought about becoming a firefighter? Or maybe an EMT? People like you are rare, Adam. The world needs more of them. Her words struck a chord deep within him. For the first time in years, Adam felt a spark of purpose reignite within him. The idea lingered in Adam's mind for days. Becoming a firefighter or an EMT wasn't something he'd ever considered before, but Emily's words had planted a seed. Her encouragement reminded him of the night he had saved her, how despite the fear and uncertainty, his actions had made a difference. Sitting in his small apartment, Adam pulled out his laptop and began researching local training programs. The thought of stepping into a completely different career was daunting, but there was a quiet excitement in the possibility. The next morning, he called the local fire department's recruitment office. A friendly voice on the other end of the line guided him through the basics of applying and the requirements he'd need to meet. It's a tough road, the recruiter warned, but it's worth it if you're committed. Over the next few weeks, Adam balanced his shifts at the restaurant with training. He started running early in the mornings, lifting weights, and studying for the written exams. The discipline and focus gave him a sense of direction he hadn't felt in years. Emily, too, found herself inspired by their meeting. She had always known that the man who saved her was brave, but seeing his humility and determination up close reignited her own drive to help others. One afternoon, she invited Adam to join her at a community center where she volunteered. We're hosting a workshop for trauma survivors, she explained. I think you really connect with some of them. Adam hesitated but agreed, curious to see Emily in her element. The workshop was a safe space where people shared stories of resilience and recovery. Adam listened intently, occasionally sharing bits of his own experience from that fateful night. To his surprise, one of the attendees, a young man named Jordan, approached him after the session. Hearing your story, it gave me hope, Jordan said, his voice trembling. I've been struggling to move forward after an accident, but knowing someone like you is out there, it's motivating. Adam felt a swell of emotion. He hadn't realized how much his actions could ripple outward, touching lives he hadn't even known existed. Emily and Adam began collaborating on a project they called the Ripple Effect. Their vision was simple: to create a platform that celebrated acts of courage, kindness, and resilience. They organized events, workshops, and online campaigns encouraging people to take action in their communities, no matter how small. Adam's story became one of their cornerstones. He often spoke at events, sharing how an ordinary moment had transformed his life. "You don't have to be fearless to make a difference," he would say. "You just have to care enough to act." The work was challenging but deeply fulfilling. Adam found himself growing as a person, embracing the challenges that came with his new career path and his role in the Ripple Effect. Months later, Adam stood in front of a crowd at a graduation ceremony for new recruits at the Fire Academy. He had done it, completed the rigorous training, and earned his place among those who ran toward danger to save lives. Emily was in the audience, clapping the loudest as Adam received his badge. She had been there every step of the way, a constant source of encouragement and support. After the ceremony, she approached him with a smile. "So, what's next, hero?" Adam laughed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. "I think it's time we take the Ripple Effect to the next level. If one act can change a life, imagine what a whole community can do." Emily nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "Let's make it happen." As they walked away from the ceremony, the sun setting behind them, Adam felt a deep sense of gratitude for the chance encounter that had connected their lives and for the promise of all the good still to come. Months after Adam's graduation, the Ripple Effect had grown beyond their wildest dreams. What started as local workshops and small community events had turned into a regional movement. They began receiving invitations to speak at schools, conferences, and even companies looking to inspire their employees with stories of resilience and courage. But with growth came challenges. Balancing Adam's demanding schedule as a firefighter with the responsibilities of running the Ripple Effect tested his limits. Emily, too, found herself stretched thin, managing the nonprofit's logistics while continuing her work as a therapist. One evening, as they prepared for a major fundraising gala, Adam voiced his concerns. "I'm worried we're biting off more than we can chew. What if we lose sight of why we started this in the first place?" Emily paused, looking up from the stack of papers she'd been reviewing. "That's exactly why we need to keep going, Adam. Every story we hear, every person who tells us they've been inspired, it reminds me that what we're doing matters." But she hesitated. "You're right. We need help." Recognizing their limitations, Emily and Adam decided it was time to expand. They put out a call for volunteers and staff, seeking people who shared their vision. The response was overwhelming. Among the new recruits was Jordan, the young man Adam had met at the trauma workshop. Now a budding social worker, Jordan was eager to give back. "You changed my life," he said. "Let me help you change others." With a dedicated team in place, they were able to scale their efforts. Emily focused on developing mental health resources, while Adam worked on creating physical training programs inspired by his journey to becoming a firefighter. Together, they offered a holistic approach to resilience: mind, body, and community. One rainy evening, Adam was called to a fire at an apartment building. It was one of the most dangerous situations he faced yet. As he navigated the smoke-filled halls, he came across a family trapped on the third floor. Guiding them to safety tested every ounce of his training and resolve. As the years passed, the Ripple Effect became a nationally recognized movement. Schools adopted their programs, communities organized their own events, and their online campaigns reached millions. Adam and Emily began traveling internationally, sharing their message with audiences in other countries. In a small village in South America, they met a group of young activists inspired by their story who had started their own community initiative to help at-risk youth. "You've shown us that even small acts can create big changes," one of them said. Hearing those words reminded Adam and Emily of their mission's core: the power of connection, courage, and kindness. The incident left him physically unscathed but emotionally shaken. Sitting in the station's locker room afterward, he replayed the night's events over and over. Emily visited him the next day, sensing his unease. "It's okay to feel shaken, Adam. What you do, what you face, it's not easy. But that's why it matters so much." Her words were a balm to his soul, and once again, he felt the strength to keep going. Years after their journey began, Adam and Emily returned to the place where it all started, Standing on the street where the car accident had occurred, they reflected on how that single moment had changed their lives. "What do you think your younger self would say if he could see you now?" Emily asked. Adam smiled, his eyes filled with gratitude. He wouldn't believe it. "But I tell him this: every challenge, every fear, it's worth it. Because it's not just about what you achieve. It's about the lives you touch along the way." As they walked away, the sound of children playing echoed in the distance, a testament to the brighter, better world they had helped to build. Years turned into decades, and the ripple effect continued to grow, adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Adam and Emily, now mentors rather than full-time leaders, passed the torch to a new generation of changemakers. Jordan, the once troubled youth Adam had met at a workshop, had risen to become the organization's director. Under his leadership, the ripple effect expanded into underserved rural areas, ensuring that even the most remote communities had access to its programs. "Adam," Jordan said during a visit to the couple's home, "everything you taught me about resilience, about giving back, it's become the foundation of my life. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Adam, now graying, but still as sharp as ever, clasped Jordan's shoulder. "You've taken this farther than we ever could. That's the beauty of this. It's bigger than any one of us." One day, Emily came across an old journal she'd kept during the early days of the ripple effect. As she flipped through its pages, she was struck by how far they'd come. "Remember this?" she asked Adam, showing him a sketch she'd made of their first event, a modest gathering in a community center with folding chairs and borrowed equipment. Adam chuckled. "I remember thinking no one would show up. And then when they did, I realized it wasn't about how big the crowd was. It was about the connections we made." They decided to document their journey in a book, combining their personal stories with lessons learned along the way. When it was published, Ripples of Change, A Journey of Courage and Connection, became a bestseller, inspiring countless readers to create their own movements for good. One summer evening, Adam and Emily attended an event organized by the Ripple Effect's latest team. Watching from the sidelines, they saw a young girl step up to share her story. "My name is Layla," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "When I was 10, I lost my parents in an accident. I felt alone and lost, like my life would never have meaning again. But then I found the ripple effect. They showed me that my story isn't over. It's just beginning." Layla's words brought tears to Emily's eyes. "This," she whispered to Adam, "is why we started." As the crowd erupted in applause, Adam squeezed her hand. "And it's why we'll never stop." Long after Adam and Emily were gone, their legacy lived on. Communities across the world continued to embrace the philosophy they championed, that every person has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. Their story became a symbol of hope, taught in schools and shared in families. A simple idea that kindness and courage could create ripples of change had grown into a global movement that would never fade. Because in every ripple lies the potential for a wave, and in every wave, the power to transform the world.